We're getting close. I'm sure of it.
Alright, let's go find Serana's mom. Or at least find out where she went. Nothing else. Now we are here in the Tower Ruins. Apparently no one's been here in a long, long time. In fact, probably the last person to pass through here would be Serana's mom, most likely. And we may be going back, even thousands of years.
Be careful. I don't know what might be around.
Like Serana's last memories, before we mentioned this in the last video, her last memories when we found her were that she didn't even, there was no empire in Cyrodiil yet, you know, so we're going way, way back. And I had also thought about when we first unlocked the moon dial and the stairway leading down to the area we're in now. It looked very much like a dwarven structure, and I was thinking maybe we could keep our eyes out for some dwarven stuff. Evidence of a dwarven presence here in this old tower ruin where no one's been for just for ages, apparently. It's not inconceivable that there were dwarves topside also. I mean, we think of them living underground, but there's a lot of things concerning the dwarves that are kind of broken in Skyrim, like, you know, that they're traditionally considered, you know, short, stocky, bearded folk, right? In most, you know, fantasy situations, they would be. You know, Lord of the Rings and so on and so forth. I guess that's how we might commonly imagine them in our heads. But here, they were just another mer. They were another of the elves, you know. Probably just as tall, if not taller, than other elves, and so on and so forth. And they just had their own culture and their own way of doing things. But it's not inconceivable they could come up topside, maybe even wander. I mean, some of their cities, true enough, they have huge, vast underground, you know, areas where they lived and did their thing, but some of their cities also have evidence of structures above ground. You know, it's not just like a little entrance, you know, hole in the ground leading down into this great, vast underground structure, which in some cases it might be kind of like that, but in others, there's plenty of buildings up top. If you go on the Periite quest, there's quite a few structures on top of, what is it, Bethardums or whatever, and there's a few more like that. And I'm sure they did their share of trading and things like that with other people, and it wasn't all underground, you know. And I think they're, you know, kind of break the mold with dwarfs in Skyrim. I think when we learn, hopefully one day we'll learn a lot more about them as a people. That there'll be plenty of things that don't match up with what we might normally think of dwarves in general. What would be really, really amazing if perhaps Serana or Serana's family or something pertaining to them as a whole might carry over into the next Elder Scrolls, and we might it'd be neat if you could just pull Serana off to the side and say, hey, I see dwarven stuff here. Did you know any dwarves? Wouldn't that be a great dialogue option to follow out, at least to get some little background on dwarves that maybe Serana knew some? Now, I don't know in the timeline, based on when Serana got, you know, put in her little cell where we found her, right? Earlier, I don't know if in the timeline that would fit in. Maybe dwarfs were even extinct long before Serana was put in her little prison or whatever. But I don't know, maybe not. Anyway, that's a conversation I'd really like to have. Sadly, that's not a speech option, so okay, I guess Bethesda's gonna hold us in suspense a little longer, keep us in the dark. Which kind of tells me, as many references as they make to the dwarves here, they're really notorious, from my experience with Bethesda games, limited experience, but whatever, that they will start hinting at things that are going to be the focus of the next game. Like, there were a lot of hints towards Skyrim in Oblivion, a lot of them. Many of the major portions of the story, or the bigger storylines, they would tend to take you to Bruma or around Bruma. The Dark Brotherhood dealing with the big betrayal, you know, and Lucian LeChance being killed and so on and so forth. All that took place right near Bruma, which was one of their, not sanctuaries, but it was a place where a turning point in that storyline took place. The Great Oblivion Gate, the main Oblivion Gate, aside from the one Mehrunes Dagon uses to actually teleport himself to the Imperial City itself, you know, but the big Oblivion Gate that had several smaller ones beside it that you have to go in during one of the bigger parts of the main storyline, that was at Bruma. Your first Thieves Guild fence is at Bruma. References to Nord culture and stuff are in Bruma, but there's references to other cultures too, so it was kind of sprinkled in there. But when you know, looking back, a lot of things pointed towards Skyrim. There was no big sign that popped up, you know, in an Oblivion Gate saying the next part of the story will deal with Nords. You know, it wasn't anything like that, but just a lot of little vague references. And if you look, it always kind of pointed you north through the main storylines. So, anyway. In this case, there's enough references to dwarfs that I would think we're going to get something. It's possible the next Elder Scrolls could be something of a prequel in the timeline and go way, way back. You could be going all the way back to the dwarfs and wherever they might set that, you know, whatever country or area they might set that in. Although this would have been a good time to do that. I don't know where else dwarves did a lot of their settling, you know. I don't know where they... I mean, there's obviously a huge dwarven presence in Skyrim. I'm not sure where else the dwarves might be found. But that might be a place to look if they have... there's a lot of evidence of dwarven presence in, say, I don't know,
We're getting close.
Where the Red Guards come from, out there in Hammerfell. Or if maybe elsewhere, you know, with the Khajiits, is there some dwarven presence in that? That would be a really good indication of where they might go with the next game. Just a thought. Or it's possible there's just I didn't remember any dwarven references really at all in Oblivion. Nothing that really just sticks out. It certainly wasn't a focus. There's a lot having to do with the Akaviri. There's a bit of that. And then, you know, of course, a lot of the Ayleid ruins. Lots of Ayleid ruins. And that was actually one of my favorite parts of the game. But not so much about it. Now, the dwarves are really, really big here, so I don't know. Anyway, for those of you that are kind of like me that would like to know a lot more about them, it'd be nice if they would go ahead and bring some of that to the light. Even if they have to go back and take us in the next Elder Scrolls several thousand years ago. I would be totally cool with that. They, as long as it's Elder Scrolls, I don't care where, when it takes place, doesn't matter to me. Who's doing it, whatever, as long as I'm there, as long as I get to do it. That's all I really care about. And we can be pretty sure that the next Elder Scrolls is also going to be next gen, exclusively next gen. And that is a good thing. That means it's going to be, I mean, for those of you that thought Skyrim was beautiful, well, you know, just imagine what they can do with their little creation engine and all that with next gen. Well, we're about to find out with Fallout 4 here in just a few days. Yay! We'll find out exactly what they can do with their creation engine and what kind of graphics they can come up with and stuff. They said they configured that so they could let their artists just have a field day. Well, let's see what they can do. I'm totally down with that. Tell you what, you give those people at Bethesda a ball to play with, and they're going to roll with it. I mean, they are going to kind of stretch it to its limits if possible. So this is mainly just a series of chambers with increasingly difficult mobs to deal with. Increasingly badass skeletons and stuff. Expect to run into a few more gargoyles too. I don't mind this so much. That's nothing really story or anything related, just a bunch of kicking ass, you know. Let's do a bunch of fighting on the way to the top of the tower. I'm cool with that. Get rid of some of these little petty gems that I have. I need to go raid some dwarven ruins. Well, we're gonna be heading to probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest dwarven ruins in the game anyway. In not too long, we're gonna have to go retrieve an Elder Scroll. We already kind of established that. Right now we're worrying about finding Serana's mom to get one of the scrolls, specifically. That's kind of the whole point of going and finding her in the first place. It says we need several scrolls to find out exactly what the Lord Harkon and these vampires are really up to. And Serana, to her credit, she doesn't really want to be much part of that. In fact, if her dad has really anything to do with it, she's not really wanting to participate. It says a lot about her. Serana's doing really well, and not just, I mean, she's tanking, she's drawing her attention, but she's evasive. Dealing with her magic and stuff, she can pretty much stay out of the way. She doesn't have to sit there and just take millions of hits. She's doing her share of damage, too. It's cool. I'll just let her do her thing. She may be unkillable, but unkillable meaning that once she's dropped down to low health, she can't be finished off, right? So, like, say if she's getting, you know, if she's caught in dragon breath or something like that, and she goes down to one knee, she's not just going to outright die. But I'd like to keep her from getting down on one knee in the first place. And honestly, usually when a follower is incapacitated, when they are essentially like knocked out, they lose all threat. In other words, any enemy that was concentrated on them immediately ignores them. It's usually what happens anyway. So, unkillable or not, her whole basically purpose as a follower is to just draw enemy attention. Especially on Legendary, you just want somebody to draw the heat for a minute and be able to take it just long enough to where you can get in there and kill them off while they're not looking at you. It's kind of the whole idea. And she can do that in a different way. She's different than Uthgerd. Uthgerd would just go in there and bang on her shield and say, yeah, you want some of this? And Serana's a little more like a freaking little ninja. Just zipping around and casting her spells. And in other words, she doesn't have to take a lot of hits if you can't hit her, you know. I totally dig that too. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but one thing I really, really, really want to see in the next Elder Scrolls, and I don't know if it fits into their whole...
Where'd you come from?
Oh, hello, big dude. Okay, well, why don't you just jump on my face? All right. Well, Serana just finished his ass off. I'm trying to switch weapons here. I'd really like to see dodge rolling. You know, they introduced the silent roll here, which is cool. It's a new animation and new stuff. But I want to see more evasive, real-time combat in terms of where, you know, if an enemy attacks, their hitbox isn't just basically like a turn-based thing. They swung, they hit you, regardless of where you're situated. Even if, you know, while they're swinging, you zip around behind them, they still hit you, type thing. I'd rather the hitboxes be a little more precise, and if you can dodge roll, if you can evade, then do that too. Like Dark Souls. Perfect example, like Dark Souls or some of the other games. Dragon's Dogma, even Dragon Age Inquisition, believe it or not, introduced a mechanic like that. Each class has their own evasion tactic. With the warriors, it's combat roll. With the rogues, it's like this evade kind of front flip roll type of thing. With the mages, it was different kinds of steps you could take, little teleporting zippy things that you could do to get out of the way. And for the most part, they worked. Now, there were times where sometimes you get caught in a hitbox that, according to the animations, what you saw on screen, you didn't get hit. But, I mean, who hasn't been lag stabbed on Dark Souls that's played the game from 50 feet away? I mean, it happens, you know, as far as that goes. But overall, I would just like an evasion mechanic to make the combat feel more action, visceral, just you're in it, you know, and you're actually fighting. It's not just, I press my button, that's my attack, you press your button, that's your attack. And I still have a lot of that in Skyrim and stuff. I don't feel like sometimes where I think I could outmaneuver my opponent. I really just can't, because I'm sitting there clodding around in these heavy boots. Can't roll, can't dodge, can't flip around, can't zip around behind their back and do a backstab. Can't do any of that stuff. I would like to see a lot more of the action-oriented combat introduced. Keep the same art style and the same graphics, and stuff like that. I'm not saying change those things. I would just like to see some of that introduced into the combat itself. That would be amazing. Where even one-on-one confrontations out in the middle of nowhere, whether it be a stupid bear or some bandits out in the woods and stuff, you can get in there like a friggin', like a real whirlwind, like a real swordsman. Maybe do a little flipping around, a little dancing of your own, and make it all fancy. You know, I mean, we already, you know, I mean, you already got it where you can get a two-handed weapon and you can go in there and, you know, just mash your right trigger and, you know, just close your eyes and swing as hard as you can. You know, anyone can do that. But anyway, just kind of throwing that out there. It'd make the whole roguey style gameplay a little more, well, a little more assassin-y, I guess, or something. A little more ninja-like type of thing. If you allow me to dual wield and dodge evade, I'd be the happiest camper. You know, really just that. Doesn't have to be a whole lot of stuff you introduced, right? You know, kill moves and kill animations are still amazing. You know, it'd be nice if you get a kill move and you're playing more of a finesse style player, that you could zip around and maybe flip over someone's back and give them a, you know, a throat slit or something like that to finish them off. You know, some finishing moves and stuff. That would be cool. Not saying they have to throw all that in there, but I wouldn't mind. But yeah, it's just the ability to move a little bit, make it a little more real time. Alright, I'm gonna assume we're pretty close to the top of this tower. Can't have too much farther to go, right? Serana is really, really quick to raise the dead. I mean, like, really quick. That's an almost instant cast for her. So she definitely prefers or leans towards conjuration and stuff. But that's only so good if you have enemies around to raise that are worth something in a fight. I don't know exactly how much you can buff her her destruction skills. You know, like magicka cost reduction for spells and stuff like that. I'd like her to be able to spam her ice spikes or even ice storms and stuff like that. I'm wondering if we need to get to a certain level where she starts using the next level spells in each school. I'm wondering if maybe by the time we get to level, say, 60 or 70 or something, that she will, you know, because I know she levels with us. I'm not sure how her skills raise accordingly, though. You know, I know there's like a little, kind of like a hidden character sheet behind the scenes that keeps track of her stats. What her defense is and what her level or rank is, you know, in certain things and stuff like that. So I'm curious if maybe she'll gain higher tier skills once we reach a certain level as a character. Okay, well this certainly looks like a setup for a final, what would you say, boss room or something. Okay, well you can tell by that tone that's going off in the background that this is the end of the area. We've discovered the... Of course, we haven't cleared it. I'm assuming these gargoyles come to life, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, of course they do. They almost have to. You know, assuming we clear these guys out, and there's we'll finally get to wherever we need to go to find Serana's mom.
Where'd you come from?
I think this is a really, really cool feature to the whole storyline here. Like, this is more Oblivion-like to me. It's a side story, but it has a whole main story in and of itself. And that's how the storylines were in Oblivion. I'm not saying they're completely lacking. Like, you know, the Dark Brotherhood here in Skyrim, which I think, that between that and the Thieves Guild is probably the other one that's really most Oblivion-like, because it's the intrigue and the scandalous behavior of, you know, the Thieves Guild leadership and all this, and then, you know, averting disaster, you know, with the Thieves Guild and stuff like that. I mean, there was a really cool storyline with that, so I'm not knocking that, but this definitely has that type of feel to me. This leans back more towards the writing that I fell in love with. They really moved away from that with the Mage Guild storyline. But one of you guys, once again, I'll bring up that you did bring up a really, really good point, is that magic in general isn't really respected here, and it's very much on the back burner, and on the top shelf type of thing, out of reach, kind of out of everyone's face in Skyrim. They really don't want it around them. You know, they'd rather deal with their problems with with steel, with a sword and a shield, and they leave all that magic to the witch elves type of thing. And I don't blame them. Magic usually does more harm than good, in general. But so, I mean, I get it, why that storyline is kind of what it is. I'm not going to concentrate much on that storyline myself. In fact, we reluctantly joined the Mages Guild just to kind of progress some of the other storylines. We're just dealing with them kind of as we go, as we have to. But I'm kind of leaving them alone.
Look at this place.
All right, now...
This has to be it. I knew she was deep into necromancy. I mean, she taught me everything I know. But I had no idea she had a setup like this. Look at all
cool.
this.
Now we see why
She must
she's
have spent years
so
collecting these
proficient.
components. And what's this thing? I'm not sure.
Okay, now I'll point out again.
Something. Let's take a look around. There has to be something here that tells us where she's gone. My mother was meticulous about her research. If we can find her notes, there might be some hints in there. I had no idea her laboratory even existed. She had an alchemy set up in her drawing room, but nothing that even comes close to what's here. Looking at the equipment and materials, it looks like she was trying to advance her necromancy. I don't know. Certainly not longevity. Kind of a waste of time for a vampire. Not that I ever saw. My mother had a bit of a thing for magical constructs. Not what you're thinking. She just found them fascinating. I remember she used to keep a small journal. See if you can dig it up.
All right, we will. I do remember this place is just chock full of alchemy stuff. Like, I think there's at least one of everything here. Yeah, I'm really not exaggerating. Now, I'd like to point out this thing here in the middle of the floor. Once again, it has a dwarven flavor to it. It has some dwarven leanings. I'm just saying.
Keep searching.
Now, for those of you that are already somewhat familiar with this, learning a bit about where we're, what this circle in the floor kind of has to do with, where it leads and all that, is well, let's just say it loosely deals with soul gems, all right? And we know the dwarven fixation with soul gems and using those to empower their constructs and stuff like that, and basically harnessing the souls of, well, you know, souls to do all that stuff with, and basically doing with their hands things that pretty much just pertain to the gods and spiritual things, or, you know, stuff like that. Ethereum things. They were essentially trying to bring that stuff to Earth and bypassing the gods and everything that they did. It is inevitable that they would finally piss one of the gods off enough to where, well, I think that's the primary reason for their sudden vanishment from, you know, from existence. Is I think it was Azura that did it, and I think there's a hint to that in Azura's box. That's where my little theory kind of stems from, and it's nothing refined, but I think
Any luck yet?
I think that book was written not just, you know, not just offhand. I think it actually has some meaning and stuff. So, but and she may not be the only Daedra or divine or maybe all the above. Maybe the dwarves managed to step on every spiritual being's toes in doing what they did, because they crossed a lot of boundaries. dealing with, soul magic or whatever and stuff like that, mysticism or whatever you want to call it, and all this other stuff. And what would you say, delving into things they really had no business putting their noses into. They would essentially make themselves gods or godlike. I mean, obviously that was their leanings. But I would not be surprised to find out that this circle in the middle of the floor is either from dwarven influence or constructed with the help of dwarfs or something way back when, thousands of years ago, to find a portal to an Oblivion realm. That's not a theme that's just completely distinct to this either, if that's the case, because there's the whole breaking into the Golden City and becoming the Black City and all that kind of stuff, and breaching the Fade in the flesh as a man, getting into immortals putting their fingers into immortal pies and stuff like that you have take place in Dragon Age and stuff. And you hear me bring up Dragon Age a lot. It's not just because I like the series a whole lot, and it's similar in a lot of ways, but the similarities really are there to where I would think that maybe, the developers, the writers and stuff, maybe looked at each other a little bit here and there when they designed their stuff.
Let me see.
Just a thought.
I only know what she told me. She had a theory about soul gems, that the souls inside of them don't just vanish when they're used. They end up in the soul cairn. The soul cairn is home to very powerful beings. Necromancers send them souls and receive powers of their own in return. My mother spent a lot of time trying to contact them directly, to travel to the soul cairn itself. That circle in the center of the room is definitely some type of portal. If I'm reading this right, there's a formula here that should give us safe passage into the soul cairn. A handful of soul gem shards, some finely ground bone meal, a good bit of purified void salts. Ah, damn it. We're also going to need a sample of her blood, which, if we could get that, we wouldn't even be trying to do this in the first place. Not bad. We'd better hope that's good enough. Mistakes with these kind of portals can be gruesome. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get started. Oh, good. Well then, let's head over to the portal vessel and I'll do the rest.
Yeah, I was kind of collecting that as we went. So maybe Serana's mom wasn't utilizing this for her own ends to trade powers with the powers that be so they could be more powerful and kill more people like mages like to do. But perhaps she was doing this to protect Serana. Or protect the family or something. Maybe her interests weren't completely selfish. Maybe she succeeded. Maybe that's why we're going through this damn portal into Oblivion. Right? It's got to lead somewhere.
Then the rest is up to me. Are you ready to go? I'm not entirely sure what this thing is going to do when I add my blood. Of course. What is it? I've been asking myself the same thing since we came back to the castle. She was so sure of what we did to my father. I couldn't help but go along with her. I never thought of the cost. Possibly. I guess even a vampire mother is still a mother. She worried about me, about all of us. But she wanted to get me as far away from my father as possible before he really went over the edge. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I just didn't expect anyone to care how I felt about her. Thank you. Are we ready then? All right, here goes.
Interesting. Hide Serana away with one of the Elder Scrolls and then flee to go hide the other Elder Scroll. So that's what we're going after, is the Elder Scroll, to go find her, right? I don't know why I'm associating dwarves with this thing right here, but I am. Just have a sneaky suspicion. And yeah, I don't think that's going to work right there. It's burning me. Yeah?
Now that I think about it, I should have expected that. Sorry. It's hard to describe. The soul cairn is... well, hungry, for lack of a better word. It's trying to take your life essence as payment. There might be, but I don't think you're going to like it. Vampires aren't counted among the living. I could probably go through there without a problem. Not your first choice, I'd guess? Maybe. We could just pay the toll another way. It wants a soul, so we give it a soul. Yours. My mother taught me a trick or two. I could partially soul trap you and offer that gem to the Ideal Masters. It might be enough to satisfy them. It would make you a bit weaker when we travel through the soul cairn, but we might be able to fix that once we're inside. Maybe. I'm sorry. I wish I knew a better way, something that would be easier for you. Just know that whatever path you choose, I won't think any less of you. Sometimes things just have to be done. I know that better than anybody. Do you need something? The Soul Cairn is a tiny sliver of Oblivion, the realm of the Daedra. It's ruled by unseen beings known as the Ideal Masters. Honestly, I don't know. Necromancers are always interested in souls, though, so that probably has some kind of interest. Nobody really knows. As far as I've heard, no one's seen them and returned to Tamriel to tell about it. I've read stories. Stories about fools that manage to communicate with them. You give the Ideal Masters souls, they give you powers to summon the undead. It's all very businesslike. Because most of the stories end with the Ideal Masters duping the Necromancers, who end up dead or wishing they were dead. Are you sure? I'm willing to turn you, but you need to think it through. You'd become the very thing you've sworn to destroy. I don't know how the Dawn Guard will react. Turning someone is a very personal thing for vampires. It's intimate. For us. I don't want you to feel like I'm forcing you into this. Let's not waste too much time then. I promise to try and make this as painless as possible. Hold still.
And this specifically is why I didn't let Harkon turn me. And there we go. And this is why I made my character exactly the way I made my character. So that my character's eyes would look really cool. It's really just it.
Let's go. My mother must be waiting on the other side of that thing.
Probably so. We'll probably make something of a beeline to go find her, too. There's a lot you can explore in here. A couple spells you can get, stuff I won't be using. There's a special horse you can get, one that I wouldn't use, not over Shadowmere. Because Shadowmere is my sentimental favorite. But we may look around a little bit in here, but I'd like to go get to Serana's mom and get on about our business. We have dragons, Elder Scrolls to collect and stuff. But now we have the Vampire Lord perk. So if you're into, let's see, carnivorous, cadaverous, blood-sucking, undead fiends, then my character takes on a whole new level of sexiness. But look at those eyes. Isn't that cool? Sorry, that's specifically why I chose this face paint, made my character's eyes black, and did all that other stuff. Was with that specifically in mind. And now I have to remember how to equip this Vampire Lord thing. Let's see. I think as a Vampire Lord you get like your own special menu of stuff, and you can gain more powers to activate through the tree, but there we go. This is probably not something I'll use often, if at all, but there we go. Just gotta do it one time, right? Go ahead and take a look at this. Very cool. Very cool. So sexy. All right, people. It's been fun. We will go explore the Soul Cairn on the next one. I think that sounds like a bit of fun. All right, if you want to subscribe, click that button up top. For the rest of this Let's Play up to this point, click that image in the middle. It should take you there. All right, I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.